Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I offer one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. And you can learn more at my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can also sign up for my mailing list, and that will keep you apprised of everything I have going on. I also post daily over on my Facebook page. So there are lots of ways that we can connect. But for now, the angels and I are here to co-create a sweet and light-filled space where you can receive, where we can keep you company for the next hour or so as you either drift off to sleep or go about your day, because I know for many of you that you listen during the daytime, while others of you do use this as a sleep aid. So the way each episode works is, for the first 15 or 20 minutes or so, I ramble a bit and I bring in the angels and help create the space for you to connect with the divine love that is here for you. And then the second segment is Storytime, where I might share with you a story from my life. We might read through something that's in the public domain, or we might flip through the pages of an old TV guide or a community cookbook. So this episode, we are going the community cookbook route, and it's something I'm really looking forward to. I love these episodes, and if you don't know what a community cookbook is, just stay tuned. I'll explain it to you a little bit later. So if you are new to this podcast, welcome. I'm so grateful you have found your way here. And if you are a longtime listener, thank you so much. I love getting to meet you here for each episode. And if you are enjoying the podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you would consider leaving a review or a rating on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. So this podcast is a little bit different. It's a mashup of two of my favorite forms of self-care, connecting with the angels and listening to a sleep podcast, which I do every single night. So it's an interesting podcast because it doesn't quite fit into one category or the other. It's a blend of both, because I'm a blend of both. So as I record this, it is Monday morning, and it's a little bit overcast, which makes it very cozy here right now. I don't know how you are on an overcast morning, but for me, it just feels like I'm wrapped up in a blanket and I have permission to move a little bit more slowly than if it were a bright sunny day. It'll be bright and sunny later on. I live in the Bay Area, California, and we're in what we call the June gloom stage, which means that usually in the morning there's a little bit of a fog layer and it burns off as we move further into the day. So for right now, it's a little overcast. There's a few birds singing their morning awake. And I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to be here with you. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and just breathe love into your body and into your mind and into your thoughts, just to breathe love into everything. And if you're not sure how to do that, let's ask the angels to breathe that love in for you. and with you. It's one of the things that I love so much about working with the angels is that we can ask for their help. That was one of the first things I worked with them on. Angels help me open and experience divine love. Help me open to receive love. It's so interesting that receiving love is not really easy sometimes. You'd think it would be one of the easiest things we would do, but the human experience has love wrapped up in all kinds of conditions. It's sometimes performative, right? It's something that can be lost. It's something that can be removed. But divine love doesn't work that way. Divine love always is. And my experience over the many years of walking this path is when I allow myself to always source from divine love, then the earthly love is easier to receive. And this is always what has drawn me to this work, or to this way of being in the world. I don't know it's right to call it work anymore, because it just is. It just is. And just so you know, it doesn't mean that I am perpetually happy, or I am perpetually enthusiastic about life. I still am a human being, and there are things that cause me to feel distressed or disappointed or concerned. I have the wild range of human experiences as well. But I always know that I can touch upon this love and be touched by it, and it will help to balance and sustain me. So it feels like this vibration of home. And so again, just if you'll just breathe with me for a moment. I know you're breathing anyways, but there is something about the invitation to take a deep breath, an intentional breath or two, that I find just makes it easier to open to receive this love. So I'm going to call the angels in to join us. They are already here. And I also love sharing the ritual of inviting them in with you. So I'll take a deep breath in and out with you as we gently call ourselves forward into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you infuse this broadcast with waves of love, waves of healing, waves of acceptance, of goodness, of lightness, of spirit, helping to guide our way on our authentic paths in ways that bring us deep fulfillment. And angels, I ask that you bring forward blessings of love and light for each one of our beloveds listening to this message whenever they listen, that you be present with them, that you help them know that they are precious, and that this world is filled with goodness for them. So dear ones, just take some nice deep breaths in and out. And I speak this prayer, this request, because you are precious. You are so very precious in this world. And you are worthy of being cherished and loved. And the light is here for you, this beautiful, bright, divine light. It is here for you, and it is here as you, because you are a beautiful, bright light in this world. And I can feel the angels bringing forward sweet, soothing energy for you. And just breathe. This energy feels gentle. It feels sweet. Because the angels know what you are going through. They know what is in your heart. They hear your prayers. And they are here to support and love you. And so we'll just breathe together. And if you have any prayers or intentions that you wish to share with the angels, I invite you to bring them into your heart now. No prayer is too big or small. Just let the angels know what is in your heart, and let them know how they can support you. How can they help you? And we'll just breathe some more together and imagine, if you will, that the space you are in is being infused with a soft pink light that is filled with love for you. This light is representative of the divine love that is here for you. And this light is expanding to everyone and everything that you love. You don't have to do this. The angels are doing this on your behalf. And then it is rippling far beyond that of which you know. It is infusing light across the timeline of your life, bringing healing to the past, the present, and your future stream. As you come into the fullness and the wholeness of all that you are, that you are a beautiful being filled with divine light. And just breathe with us and receive. Just allowing yourself to relax, replenish, allowing yourself to be nurtured and nourished by this light that is flowing through for you. That right now there's nothing you need to do. You have permission to simply be, to be present, to be you. Allowing the waves of light to gently flow over you. And so we invite you to simply receive this light, and this light, this love, will continue flowing through you and for you and to you throughout the rest of this episode and beyond. And so you go ahead and rest. And while you rest, we're going to move on into story time. So as I already shared with you, in this episode we are going to be flipping through the pages of a community cookbook. And before we move on to that, I do have to do a little bit of, I guess, a correction or just acknowledge something from the last episode. So there is a mantra that I love, especially when it comes to creative projects. And it's this: to give yourself permission to do things imperfectly and with great love. Because I think sometimes we withhold our creations because we worry that they are not perfect. And that there is something very liberating about allowing ourselves to do things imperfectly. So this is my preamble to say that as I was re-listening to the last episode where I flipped through the pages of the Trader Joe's Fearless Flyer, there are several times where I called it the Trader Joe's frequent flyer, an understandable flub because frequent flyer is so embedded in our consciousness. And I didn't catch it when I was listening back to the editing process, because had I heard that, I would have edited it out. But I didn't, because I don't know how it is for you, but I'm terrible at proofreading things because my mind fills in what's not there, which can really be a gift in many ways, but doesn't make me a great proofreader, and clearly not always perfect as an editor either. So if you happen to catch that, my apologies, but it doesn't bother me enough to go back and re-edit that episode, because at this point, I'm all about just moving forward. I have not necessarily been in a highly creative place. I had been recording 2 episodes a week of this, and the last few weeks I've just done 1 episode a week, and I don't have it in me to go back and fix that error. So it's just going to live. It's just going to be imperfect, but filled with so much love. So, on to the next. We just are going to keep moving forward. To me, that is the key to staying in the creative stream. It's the joy, it's the fun of creation. So, if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you will know that I have a great affinity for community cookbooks, especially the Jewish community cookbooks, because I was raised Jewish. And to me, home is symbolized by food. I grew up with very specific kinds of foods and ways of cooking and holidays with family. And so I'm heavily imprinted with food. And so I can flip through these old cookbooks and a recipe will trigger beautiful memories for me. I'll have a very visceral response to them. And if you don't know what a community cookbook is, they are wonderful talismans of our past. So these days, when we think of a cookbook, we think of a highly refined cookbook where someone like Ina Garten or Gordon Ramsay, or pick your favorite chef of the day, will put together a cookbook where the recipes have been highly curated and tested extensively. And then you wind up with this beautiful cookbook that sometimes is aspirational. For me, for sure, it would be aspirational because I don't like to cook. Or there might be a cookbook based on a theme or a country. Again, recipes have been tested and highly curated. I will just say, those kinds of cookbooks don't get me excited. I used to collect a few of them, and I still have a few that I use every once in a blue moon because I really don't cook very often. But these community cookbooks are extraordinary time capsules reflecting a way that women, almost always women, in the earlier part of, the 1900s, whether it was 1920 to 1950 to 1970, would cook. So what a community cookbook is, it's a compilation of recipes from the women of an organization. So in this case, it is a community cookbook called A Little Bit of This and A Little Bit of That, which, if you grew up in a Jewish household, you can feel the timbre of this. Well, we're going to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's very, I don't know, for me, I can hear somebody saying that. And that just made me very happy. And then there is a caricature of a woman with kind of bouffant hair, and she's kind of rotund. She's a little bigger, which I love, again, because to me that just symbolizes warmth, and she's holding out a pot of something. And this is from the Sisterhood, Agudas, I don't know how to pronounce this, Agudas, Agudas, Achim. So Achim, I know, Achim. So Sisterhood, Agudas, Achim, in Attleboro, Massachusetts. It doesn't have a publication date. I think it's probably from the 70s, the 60s or 70s. So back to what a community cookbook is. So the women of an organization, a sisterhood, a PTA, a firemen's association, a church group, would compile their favorite recipes together and create this cookbook that would then be printed and they would sell as a fundraiser. So these were the recipes they used every day at home. And if you think about the way we cooked back then, it was a can of this, a sprinkle of that. There was some assumption that you already knew how to cook because back then, again, mostly women, were cooking 3 meals a day. We weren't going through drive-thrus. We weren't getting prepared foods. They were having to prepare things every day, all day. So a lot of times a recipe will have a can of condensed soup and a box of frozen spinach. So for me, as I flip through these pages, I can feel the heart of these women. I'm in a time of my life where my mom and my aunts have passed away, so the matriarchs of my family have transitioned. And there's something that just warms my heart of spending time in the pages of these recipes with these women, because I feel their heart and I feel their love and I feel their devotion to their family and their community and their synagogue. Again, I selected Jewish ones because that's my heritage. But I really support you in going on eBay and looking to see if you can find a community cookbook from either your town, your hometown, from a cuisine that you love. I have some community cookbooks that feature Greek recipes, Hawaiian recipes. You know, there are so many different kinds of community cookbooks. I focus on the Jewish ones again because that's my background and that's what brings me great joy. But I really support you in seeing if you can maybe locate a community cookbook or two that might help you connect with some of these memories for yourself. So here we go, onto the pages of this particular one. It starts with a dedication. We wish to dedicate this book to Rabbi Philip Kaplan, whom we believe to be the personification of Judaism. His dedication and spiritual leadership have truly strengthened our community. And as I was trying to figure out when this book was published, it looks like he was a rabbi there from the mid-60s into the late 70s. So that's why I think that's when this book was published. And then there's an introduction. To those of you who are accomplished Jewish cooks, we feel you will appreciate this outstanding collection of recipes. To those of you who think you are not familiar with Jewish cookery, you are certain to be pleasantly surprised by our cookbook. Chances are you've only to turn a few pages before you will find a recipe reminiscent of a favorite family dish, regardless of your ancestral background, for Jewish cooking is thoroughly international. I'm gonna summarize here. As a result of the diaspora, Jews have adapted the dishes of many lands, altering them to conform to kosher laws. A few of the dishes that come to mind are borscht from Russia, strudel from Austria, pancakes, which we call latkes, from Germany, meat pies, which we call knishes, from France, and pasta noodles from Italy. Food is considered a gift from God by Jewish people, and there are symbolic foods for every holiday. In the conclusion of our cookbook, you will find a complete description of holidays and traditional foods. There are few things that give a Jewish cook greater pleasure than someone who enjoys her delectable dishes, so please enjoy. So we start off with appetizers, and there's one specifically I want to share with you. Eggplant mock liver. So chopped liver is definitely part of Jewish cuisine, and I was raised with it, so it's not a food that grosses me out. but also it is not a food I really eat anymore for a variety of reasons. But I did discover years ago this thing called mock liver made with eggplant. So this is a vegetarian dish. And it's delicious. It's so good. And there is a company, Sabra, that actually makes this. And there is a kosher grocery store in Lafayette, California, that sells it. So every once in a while I go there because it's kind of out of the way for me. But I'll buy some because it's so delicious and I'm never going to make it myself. But let me share the recipe with you because maybe you'll be interested in this. And I should say they are using dried chicken soup mix. So if you do want to make this vegetarian, you could substitute vegetarian soup mix. That's an easy substitution. So you take 1 large eggplant, 1 medium onion chopped, 2.5 tablespoons of cooking oil, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of dry chicken soup mix or vegetarian soup mix, and salt and pepper. So you're going to cook the eggplant whole with the skin in salt water for 30 to 45 minutes. Cool, remove the skin and cut up. Fry the onion in oil for 5 minutes. Add eggplant and fry. Beat the eggs, soup mix, salt and pepper, and pour on top. Mix all together well. Remove from heat, and with the pastry cutter, chop all the ingredients well. I'm assuming you can also use your food processor because they probably didn't have those back then. Cool and serve on lettuce garnished with tomato as an appetizer, and it serves 6 to 8 people. It's also almost a form of baba ganoush. I love dips. Dips are just delightful. You make some sort of savory deliciousness that is designed to be dipped in by something else, whether it's a cracker or a carrot stick or something. So I'm always a fan of a good dip. They also have stuffed mushrooms. Always a fan of a stuffed mushroom. They have a recipe for potato knishes. So what a knish is it's a pastry dough and stuffed with something, usually like potatoes or meat or something savory. So just about every cuisine has a version of that. So first we need to make the dough, the pastry. And so we're going to take 1 cup of flour, 1/2 pound of salted butter, and 1/4 pound of cream cheese. So you mix this together with a pastry knife and refrigerate overnight. In the morning, roll out as for a pie and place over the potato mixture, which we're going to get to in a second. Roll up, cut, and place on a cookie sheet. Take 1 egg and separate. Spread the white on top of the knishes to brown evenly. And when white is used up, use the yolk for the same purpose. Oh, well, that's a little confusing, but okay. Here's the filling. 3 large onions, diced and sautéed in fat. Now, if you're a vegetarian, this is going to sound terrible to you, and of course you don't have to use animal fat. So typically in non-Jewish households, many cuisines use things like pork fat, bacon fat. In a Jewish household, you'd use schmaltz, which is chicken fat, which just growing up gave everything such a delicious flavor. And of course, I would never do that today. Like, I just wouldn't, but I'm just saying I have fond memories of things cooked in chicken fat. Sorry if that grossed you out. 3.5 pounds of potatoes boiled, salt and pepper. So we're mashing the potatoes free of lumps. Do you want no lumps in your knishes? Add sautéed onions and seasoning and bake about half an hour in a moderate oven. Now, here's the interesting thing. Even though I have just shared this recipe with you, I don't do well with knishes. I always think I would love one. And when I get them and I eat them, I don't feel well. I don't know if they're too rich for me. It's like quiche. I can't eat quiche for some reason. It makes me sick. There must be some combination of the fat and the starch that just doesn't work for me. Then there are a bunch of recipes that you will not be interested in, but are very Jewish. Things like chopped herring and sour, like many kinds of herring, was never my thing, but my father and mother loved it. I think it was an older generation thing. They do have a recipe here for kishki. Again, not at all vegetarian friendly, but it's sort of like a large Jewish sausage. But it's made with matzah meal and onion and pepper. It's very savory. And just a really funny story. So I love kishki. And kishki, basically, you would only get at a holiday. And when I used to go visit my mom in Skokie, there were always a bunch of kosher grocery stores. And I could go buy a kishki. And basically a kishki would come frozen. And you would then take it out of its plastic casing and you would bake it in the oven. And so I was making a kishki at my mom's house, and my mom had probably said, should we poke holes in it? You know, like you poke holes in a baked potato before you bake it so it doesn't explode. And I was like, no, I don't think we have to do that. Okay, big mistake. We put it in the oven. And then when the time was up and we go to take it out of the oven, it explodes. It's only funny because we were not injured. But when I tell you that kishki was all over my mother's kitchen, it was on the ceiling. It was on the ceiling. It was on the cabinets. And my mother was appropriately horrified. And I had to maintain my calm because clearly it was my responsibility to clean up this mess because I made it. And so I just have visions of me taking the mop to the ceiling to clean off kishki remnants. So learn from my mistakes. If you ever make a kishki, poke holes in it. For the love of everything, poke holes in your kishki before you cook it. Also in your baked potato. We need things not to explode when we take them out of the oven. I'm just saying. So there you go. A little kishki reference for you. We're now moving on to beverages, and we're especially going to this particular beverage because this is so reminiscent of every diet Weight Watchers recipe that I experienced growing up. It is a strawberry milkshake. But do not think for a moment that this is a real milkshake, because it does not involve any ice cream or anything that would make it super delicious. So you're going to take 8 ounces of ice cold milk. Now, just so you know, there are 2 variations of this. There is the one that is for regular people, and then the other is if you are dieting, because back then we were 2 different distinct groups. You were either a dieter or you got to eat normal food. I always fell, of course, say it with me, into the dieting category, which is probably why this recipe brings back so many memories for me. First, let me give you the normal people version, which is really barely any different. 8 ounces of ice cold milk, 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar. See, we're going to have whole milk or 2% milk and sugar. This is where it goes astray. And so people who are dieting cannot have those things back then. Now I don't care. And I don't really diet. So there you go. And a half a cup of frozen whole strawberries. Here's the diet version. 8 ounces of ice cold skim milk, because we could not be trusted with any amount of fat in our milk, because clearly that was why we had a problem. And 2 teaspoons of artificial sweetener. And then you get your half a cup of frozen whole strawberries, and you're basically going to blend that together until it's frothy. it's not really a milkshake. Milkshakes need ice cream. They need cream. So this is frozen fruit and milk. Now, I am not saying this is not delicious. I drink many a smoothie in my day. I just remember being sold a bill of goods growing up. A strawberry milkshake, and it would have skim milk and some sweet and low or saccharin and some frozen berries. And I was supposed to imagine that I was having a Burger King worthy milkshake, because Burger King was our fast food of choice, and their milkshakes were awesome. So, there you go. A little memory from the Wayback Machine. Then there's a soup section, but I just cannot get excited about soup, so I'm skipping over it. But there are matzo ball, chicken soup, kreplach recipes, split pea soup. Like, there's good soup recipes. I don't get very excited about soup. So we're going to keep going. We'll move on over to vegetables. So they have honeyed carrots. Okay, so this one, I have a reference for the honeyed carrot thing. So I've shared with you before that my husband gardens, and we had a lot of volunteer carrots this year. They just were growing all over the place. And so my husband just pulled a bunch of them up, and they're like little baby carrots. I really don't know how great a flavor they're going to have. So I told my husband I was going to make honeyed carrots. So basically a little bit of butter, a little bit of honey, some herbs, and just kind of roast them up. So here they have honeyed carrots, a half a stick of butter, 4 cups of sliced carrots, some orange juice, some ginger, some honey and salt. So I'm not going to do the orange juice part. I don't have any ginger. But they also have a sweet potato tzimmus recipe. So tzimmus is usually a sweet, sometimes savory dish that usually involves sweet potatoes, carrots, prunes, dried apricots. So it's very sweet. This one does involve some meat, so I'm not going to share the recipe with you. But I was thinking I could maybe do some sort of tzimmus thing with his carrots and maybe even put some prunes in there. It might be a disaster. I don't know. I'm not going to follow a recipe. I'm going to just go rogue and figure something out on my own. I'll let you know how it turns out, or maybe I won't. But I'm just saying. There will be some kind of roasted honeyed carrot in our house in the next 2 days. All right, I'm skipping all over this book, but it's okay. I'm just bringing you stuff I think you might enjoy with me. They have a recipe for cheese blintzes. Blintzes are wonderful. They're like these little crepes filled with goodness. So you can have a cheese blintz, you can have a cherry blintz, like there's all different kinds of blintzes. So first you have to make the crepe part. Well, I'm not making it. I'm going to buy my blintzes from Trader Joe's already prepared. But if you wanted to make a blintz, have at it, and I'll share the recipe with you. So 2 eggs, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of flour sifted, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of sugar. So you beat the eggs with a fork just enough to blend white and yolk. Add salt, water, and remaining dry ingredients, and you mix until smooth. Grease a frying pan about 6 inches in diameter, heat it well, and pour 2 tablespoons of batter. Tilt pan so as to allow the batter to run all over the bottom of the pan. Cook on one side only until it will hold its shape, and then turn out onto paper toweling and repeat with the rest of the batter. And then we have to make our filling. So we're going to take 1.5 pounds of farmer's cheese. I don't know how easy it is to find that anymore, but you could use ricotta or a dried cottage cheese. 1 dash of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of melted butter, 1 tablespoon of sugar, a quarter teaspoon of salt. So you're going to blend all of those ingredients together, place by spoonfuls onto the blintz leaves, and roll up, folding the sides to seal. You'll fry in butter, that's key, until golden brown. And typically people might serve these with sour cream or applesauce or something like that. You also could use like a cherry pie filling or something in your blintz. And then they have kugel recipes. So kugel is basically a noodle pudding, but there can also be savory kugels, like a potato kugel. I always go for, of course, the sweet kugels. I am known for my kugel, so I'll share a couple kugel recipes with you. There is a noodle apple. They're calling it a pudding, but I'm just going to call it a kugel. Noodle apple kugel, 2 eggs, 4 tablespoons of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 cup grated apples, a 1/2 cup of seedless raisins, 4 cups of cooked fine noodles, and almost always a sweet kugel will use egg noodles, and 3 tablespoons of melted butter or fat. So beat the eggs, sugar, salt, and cinnamon together. Stir in the apples, raisins, noodles, and butter or fat. Turn into a greased baking dish and bake in a 400-degree oven for 40 minutes or until browned, and it serves 6 to 8. And then they also have other kugels that include the sour cream and the cottage cheese, which is what mine includes. Mine is delicious. So I've shared the recipe for that before, so I'm just saying, if you need me to share the recipe again, you just let me know, and I will hook you up with an awesome kugel recipe. All right, and we are going to just flip right over to the desserts now, because that's the best part of these cookbooks, in my opinion. There's one here that's called Nana Rose's Fudge Squares. So anything that is dedicated to a Nana, a bubby, a grandma, no matter what the cuisine is, you know it's going to be delicious, right? So if this was published in the 60s or 70s, then Nana Rose, she knew what she was doing. So this is her fudge square recipe. 2 squares unsweetened chocolate melted, 1/2 cup of shortening, 1 cup of sugar, 1 egg, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1/2 cup of milk, 1 cup of flour, and 1/2 cup of nuts. Cream shortening and sugar, add eggs and vanilla, then chocolate. Sift dry ingredients and add them to the mixture alternately with milk. Stir in nuts and pour into an 8-inch by 12-inch pan and bake in preheated 350-degree oven for half an hour, and test with a toothpick. And then it is going to have frosting. So melt together 1 square of unsweetened chocolate and 2 tablespoons of butter. Add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and slowly pour in confectioner's sugar and stir until it reaches desired consistency. How much do you want to bet that her fudge squares were beloved by all of her children and grandchildren? Like when you went to Nana Rose's house, you were getting fudge squares, and it was going to be an awesome day. See, this is why I love these cookbooks so much, because you can feel the love. I can feel the love. I don't know if you can, but I'm going to share the love with you for sure. Well, there is a recipe for butterscotch squares. I love butterscotch things. So, of course, I won't be making this, but I'm going to vicariously enjoy this recipe with you. So 1 pound of light brown sugar, 2/3 of a cup of melted shortening. I would use butter here. Add and mix 2 3/4 cup of flour, 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3 eggs, add 1 at a time and beat, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 cup of nuts, and 1 cup of chocolate chips. How good does this sound? Put in a greased 13 by 9 pan and bake at 350 degrees for 30 to 35 minutes. Now, I just want to point something out to you. There are really no instructions about how to put this together other than to do 1 egg at a time, because these books assume that we already have some amount of experience in a kitchen and with baking. Like, you would just know. You would know how to put this together. And we're smart. I'm sure we could figure it out. And most of us know you kind of cream the sugar and the butter together, and then you mix the dry ingredients. It's like there's a whole rhythm to baking. But I just love that they give us no other information. That's it. But I'm sure that they are going to be delicious. There's something called chocolate bittersweets. I don't know what those are, but they sound good. They involve chocolate. So we're going to take a half a cup of butter, a half a cup of confectioner's sugar, a quarter teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1 cup of flour. Into our mixer, we are going to cream the butter. Okay, then add sugar, salt, and vanilla. Cream that well. Gradually add the flour and shape by teaspoonfuls into balls. Oh, interesting. Place on an ungreased cookie sheet and press a hole in the center of each. Bake at 350 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes until delicately browned, and then fill while warm and cool when frosted. So the creamy nut filling, we're going to do a 3-ounce package of cream cheese softened. Blend in 1 cup of sifted confectioner's sugar, 2 tablespoons of flour, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Cream that well. Stir in half a cup of chopped walnuts and half a cup of flaked coconut. For the then there's frosting. Wait, there's more. Melt half a cup of semi-sweet chocolate morsels and 2 tablespoons of butter with 2 tablespoons of water over low heat, stirring occasionally. Add half a cup of sifted confectioner's sugar. Beat smooth. It makes about 30 cookies. Okay, first off, there is so much sugar in these things. But they sound delicious, don't they? But they also sound like a lot of work. So this would not be something I would make, because there would be 3 different things that I would have to make in 3 different stages. So I'd be delighted to come to your house when I ate sugar and eat one of these, but I'm not making them. Okay, there's something here called the Mile High Babka, which is coffee cake. I love the word babka, though, because it brings to me so many delicious memories. So, half a pound of butter melted, half a cup of milk, 3 eggs separated, a quarter cup of sugar, 2 yeast cakes, a half a cup of sour cream, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 4 cups of flour. If you use large eggs, add a little extra flour so you can handle it. A half a cup of raisins, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, which is optional, 1 teaspoon of warm water, and 1 cup of additional sugar. So sprinkle a little sugar and 1 teaspoon of water over the yeast and let it stand while you're mixing the other ingredients. Mix melted butter and milk with a quarter cup of sugar, sour cream, and vanilla. Then add egg yolks. Add yeast and flour and let stand until it has doubled in bulk. Roll out to a quarter-thick rectangle on floured board. Cut into 6 even pieces. Beat egg whites with 1 cup of sugar until stiff and spread over dough. Sprinkle with nuts and raisins and cinnamon if used, and then roll up like a jelly roll. Grease an angel food pan and arrange 6 sections cut side up. Let rise for 1 hour or more in a warm place, then bake at 350 degrees for an hour. Sounds absolutely delicious. I have made a babka in my life because my sister had made a babka that I found to be absolutely delicious. So I had to make one because it was so good. And then I have never made it again, but it was delicious. And of course my babka involved chocolate, because of course it would back in the day when I was eating sugar. Okay, this one sounds interesting. Patchwork fruit shortcake. So we're going to take 3 cups of prepared biscuit mix. So I'm assuming that's like Bisquick. 3 tablespoons of sugar, 3/4 cup of milk, 6 tablespoons of melted butter, 12 ounces of cream cheese. Like already this is sounding so rich. 2 tablespoons of milk. 1 can, 29 ounces of pear halves. 1 can, 9 ounces of pineapple slices or 4 slices. 1 can, 29 ounces of peach halves. 1 piece of a stick of cinnamon, which is 3 inches long. 6 whole cloves. Yeah, now I don't know that I like it. I don't like cloves in baked goods. 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and 4 maraschino cherries with stems. As I've shared with you before, as a kid, maraschino cherries always represented I was going to be eating something or drinking something profoundly delicious. So this is a long recipe. Mixed, I don't know that I'm going to read this whole thing. Let's see. Mix together biscuit mix and sugar. Combine 3/4 of the milk with melted butter. Stir in. Knead 8 to 10 times in a lightly floured board. For ease, okay, you know what? I'm not going to read this whole thing. It sounds very complicated. We're making a syrup. We're draining the fruit. We need saucepans. We're going to boil things rapidly. We're going to reserve some syrup. Okay, way too complicated for me to even read to you. But we know it exists. So if you need this recipe, you email me and I'll take a picture and send it to you. This one sounds good. It sounds like something as a kid I would have loved. A rainbow snowball cake. So 1 quart of strawberry ice cream, 1 quart of orange sherbet. I was not a sherbet fan, but I would eat it if it was put in front of me. 1 quart of lime sherbet, 3 quarts of vanilla ice cream, 1 pint heavy cream whipped, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So basically, it's a lot of kinds of ice cream and sherbet. We're going to chill a 10-inch tube pan with removable bottom. With a small scoop, shape the balls of strawberry ice cream, orange and lime sherbet. Place on a cookie sheet and chill in freezer until firm. Soften the vanilla ice cream. Whip till like fluffy whipped cream. Drop layer of colored balls into pan. Add whipped ice cream to fill the spaces. Repeat until the pan is filled and freeze for several hours. Remove from pan. Frost with whipped cream flavored with vanilla and makes 16 servings. If you want to freeze several days ahead and leave in the pan, cover with moisture vapor proof wrapping. I can only imagine as a kid I would be delighted if you handed that to me. It involved ice cream. What's not to love? All right, and I will complete this beautiful culinary adventure with a fresh strawberry pie because there's something about this recipe that I love, and if you are a longtime listener, you're going to know what I'm going to say. What does it start off with? Bake a 9-inch pie shell and cool. We're assuming you already know how to make a pie shell. You already know pie crust. Done. You're a housewife. In the 60s and 70s, you already know how to make a pie crust. We don't need to tell you. Modern times, I need to know. But let's assume I have made a 9-inch pie shell and it has cooled. So in a saucepan, we're going to bring together 1 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Add 1 cup of water and blend well. Bring to a boil and add 2 cups of cut up strawberries. Stir until thick. Add red food coloring to make it even prettier. We did that back then. Food coloring was a big deal. Then cool. Just cool it. And cut in half about 2 cups of berries, more if you have them, and cover the bottom of the cool pie shell with them. Pour cooked berry mixture over and chill, and then top with whipped cream or serve with ice cream. Now, I would not get terribly excited about a strawberry pie. I just had to share that with you because of the whole pie crust situation, which always makes me laugh. So here's to the women who put together this cookbook, who made endless meals filled with love for their families and their communities. And I don't know, it brings me such warmth to remember all of the times I would gather around the table with my family and extended family, and my mom or my aunt would serve us their special recipes. And that's why I love sharing these with you so much, because it helps me connect with this love that is a part of the tapestry of my life. And so I get to share this love with you so that even if you haven't experienced it, you get to experience it through me. So just imagine we're gathering together for a delicious meal, and you're going to walk into the house and it's going to smell amazing, and we're going to have a lovely time. And maybe I'll make some of Nana Rose's fudge cake for you. Anything from Nana Rose is going to be delicious. You just know that that is true. So my beautiful friends, thank you for allowing me to keep you company. I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I wish you blessings of light. I am so deeply grateful for you. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you.